mean, I try out different ways to play in the universe. I listen to hear what my Dharma is. And one of the things that I'm working with is the world of the business community, because business is such a powerful social institution in the world today. Why should I run away from it just because I feel business people are all kind of trapped? That's my stuff to work with. I'm busy seeing business people instead of us. So I'm on the board of an organization called the Social Venture Network, which is fascinating. It's a group of people who come together, a lot of business people like Ben and Jerry, people like Anita Roddick, people like Levi Strauss, people on and on and on, Calvert Fund, all the different people come together to see if they can figure out how to be socially, whether social responsible business is an oxymoron. And basically it probably still is, because the profit motive uber alles, still. We are marketing, America is marketing to the world the roots of such deep suffering in its zeal to spread the wonders of its technology.
Souls, as we begin, we take a moment to honor the foundational hearts, the ones who saw the need for this sanctuary and dared to plant the seed. We acknowledged every hand that has tended this garden, from the first whispered idea to the vibrant evolution we sit in today. To those who began this group, your seva has created a clearing in the woods where we can finally breathe. Today, we honor that service by being fully present. We recognize that our collective strength is built upon your individual commitment to self-seva, the quiet daily practice of returning to your own heart. Because you chose to work on yourselves, we have a place to work together. We're here, we're seen, and we're home. Walking each other home into the new year. Welcome. As we settle into the sanctuary, take a moment to be here now, centering yourself in the loving awareness that brought us together today. We gather as a community that honors individual differences and celebrates the full spectrum of gender and sexuality. Ram Dass reminded us that we must have a strong sense of who we are before we engage in social action. And this affinity group provides that essential inclusive environment to explore our shared experiences, soul to soul. As we step into this new year, we are evolving our practice. We are moving deeper into the spirit of mutuality, recognizing that every person in this circle is both a giver and a receiver. In the tradition of Pure Run Warm Lines, we are here to offer a listening ear and emotional support, not to fix or cure one another. We adopt a trauma-informed lens, shifting our focus from what is wrong to what is strong. And most importantly, what is happening right here, right now. We rest in the 3 C's. We did not cause each other's struggles. We cannot cure them, and we cannot change anyone's path. But we can, with unconditional love, walk each other home. This year, we invite you to be more than a participant. We invite you to be a co-creator. While our structure is modeled after the Love, Serve, Remember guidelines, this is an open space for your direction and your voice. Everyone is invited to propose an idea for a future session or project. You're encouraged to seek the support of others here to implement your vision. Our community Zoom account and YouTube account is open to you for meetings or creative endeavors. Ideas can be submitted directly to Jacqueline or shared openly in our sessions. Before we begin our reading of How Can I Help, let us hold space for the mystery of what we will create together this year. Let us engage it with lightness, joy, and the brave honesty of the heart. As we prepare to leave each digital sanctuary, we offer our deepest gratitude to the co-creators and pioneers who continue to sustain this space. Your service is a living prayer. We dedicate the merit of this gathering to the journey of every soul present. As you return to your individual paths, remember that your greatest act of seva is the kindness you show yourself. May you continue your self-seva with the same devotion you give to this group. We release the stories shared here into the vault of confidentiality. We leave the roles of helper and helped behind, returning to the simplicity of being. Go gently, knowing you are never truly walking alone. Ram Ram. And to our foundational co-creators, there's a very specific kind of bravery required to build a bridge that has never existed before. By combining the teachings of loving awareness with the principles of intentional peer support, you didn't just start a group, you initiated a shift in how our two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, questioning, intersex, asexual, plus allies and everyone else community experiences spirituality. We thank you for your vision, seeing that the intersection where our identities and our souls meet, your courage for navigating the grist of organizational growth with a quiet mind, and your self-seva for every hour you spend in meditation, in therapy, or in nature, because that inner work is what makes the outer work possible. You've taught us that to love, serve, and remember is not a burden, but a joy when shared in mutuality. We honor your path. We celebrate your service, and we stand on the shoulders of your love. Ram Ram. Chapter 5, Helping Prison. So many times each day, we support each other informally without ever becoming helper or helped. Perhaps we're finding an article of clothing for a partner, cutting bread for one of the children, collecting the mail for the person at the next desk, holding a coat for someone at a restaurant, but a situation defined is a situation confined. The moment the act requires a definition of the roles involved, we risk entrapment. I'll give you a day in the life. I work in this program with juvenile offenders, ex-drug addicts mostly, and I'm with this very tough, smart kid who tells me, I got no time for programs, man. I seen programs. And I feel like saying, me neither. I'm not so crazy about programs myself. But here they are, and there we were. What do you know? He says. You're just a social worker. Social workers are nowhere. Social workers don't understand shit. And he's saying that a little angry and provocative, but it's a little wry too. He was playing, and I was liking him in that moment, liking his style. So I go, yeah, all right, but that's all you think I am. A social worker? You don't see anybody here but a social worker? I was up for playing too. Well, you got a degree, right? They teach you about other people's troubles, right? That's how you got this job. You're the fixer, right? Sure, I got a diploma. I got a wife too, and I got a TV. And I'm into the Boston Celtics. If I'm just a social worker, maybe you're just an ex-junkie. Is that all that's happening here? Well, he sort of paused and he heard it. And there was this moment where I felt something was about to get off the ground. Like we were going to get past all this. It sort of hung there. One of those moments when you feel possibility. Maybe we can make it after all. And then it was just like we missed. You could feel it get closer and then pass by. And I swear he sensed that too. He said, You got no idea where I am, man. And I said, Well, you got no idea where I am. He was being straight. I was being straight. Maybe we'd make it another time. Maybe we needed that honesty. But it was frustrating because it got so close. I really liked this kid. Like, if we could have talked basketball. So, bad day or at least a frustrating one. Anyhow, I come home, lay back, and my wife comes in and tells me she's thinking about quitting her job at the hospital. I sort of half groan and half laugh. I'd been hoping she'd be the one who'd have it together that evening. We take turns being the one who has it together. Okay, so what's the matter? It's like prison in there. You've either got an ID badge and a stethoscope, or you're flat on your back helpless. It's us and them, the sick and the healthy. The patients get bugged. We get bugged every day. Everybody gets bugged. I can't stand the rolls and the distances. It's not a hospital, it's a prison. And she's laughing a little, but it's a strong feeling. And then she gives me this classic exasperated line, again laughing. I don't want to be a nurse. I just want to help. So I say, poor kid, and give her a hug because it's obviously been one of those days. And I say something like, well, I don't want to be a social worker either. Social workers don't understand shit. But what are we going to do? Who's going to feed the cat? How do we get out of jail? And we laughed and had chicken and talked and made love. And afterwards, she said, I'm still a little bit at the hospital. And I said, I know, I'm still a little bit with that kid. Obviously, it's often appropriate and harmless to meet in roles in which one is helping and another is being helped. People get sick, nurses nurse, sinks get stopped up, plumbers plumb. There are voluntary contracts between those and immediate needs, or with immediate needs and others with relevant skills. Were these to remain simply forms we enter into as needed and then let go of lightly, all would be well. It's the excess baggage we carry into these functional relationships that may end up confining us, helper and helped, because states of mind and ways to behave that go way beyond function. Entrapment is or entrapment in these entrapment in these alienates us from one another, a social worker and a juvenile offender. Just miss. A nurse and a patient seem world apart. A priest and a parishioner so distant, so formal. What otherwise could be a profound and intimate relationship becomes ships passing in the night. In the effort to express compassion, we end up feeling estranged. It's distressing and puzzling. If it's prison we're in, we righteous helpers, what are we charged with? Breaking and entering with the intention of doing good, felonious assumption of personal responsibility, selling water by the river. And what is our defense? Early conditioning. They made me read Helper Rabbit every night until I was 8, Your Honor. In my house, the cry help was an order, not a plea. Or later training. I offer as Exhibit A, Your Honor, this diploma. So your name has finally proved himself adequate in the eyes of the undersigned responsible parties, if not in his own, your name is now okay. Your name has mastered certain rules for helping and promises to abide by them. Your name knows something others don't know. Your name has been trained in the use of a number of skills and had them licensed by the state. Your name will use them to make others whole. Your name is entitled henceforth to call himself a DCP, a doctor of certain powers. Your name may not immediately appreciate the predicament this will put him in or the constraints it may impose upon all. Best not divulge too much too soon, which is why all this has been written in Latin. All of us can recognize some truth to the plea of conditioning, first by our parents, then by our teachers. From earliest childhood, many of us are told, be good and help. Helpfulness gets encouraged, often rewarded, because it makes the household function more efficiently. Help out becomes a euphemism for obedience or compliance. Once we come to associate it with the rewards, we start to use helping in the service of a wide range of personal motives other than the expression of natural compassion. We might empty the trash in order to get the use of the family car, or go to the store to fetch ingredients so that mother will make our favorite cookies. We might be seeking to compensate for a lack of self-esteem or feelings of unworthiness or incompleteness. Need praise? Help out. Or perhaps we're looking for the form of atonement. There's guilt to assuage. For many, the ability to aid others can provide a needed sense of power or respectability. Maybe some of us help out as a way of compensating for a deeper sense of helplessness. We don't have to face our own quite so much when we're busy treating someone else's. Or maybe we're just plain lonely. Intimacy is what we're looking for, and it's often there to be found in a helping relationship. Rare indeed is the individual for whom the helping act does not arise in part of some personal motive. To the extent that it does, however, What we are looking for is a role that meets a need, our need. We're looking to be helpers, not simply to be helpful. A personal agenda leads us to invest in the position, not simply the function. And we invest in others' reactions to it as well. I walk down the street, I'm nobody. I run for a bus, get in line. At the store, I punch in at work. Who are you? Nobody special. And that's okay. Everybody's mostly, everybody's nobody most of the time. But walk into that senior center, let me tell you, I'm somebody. Hello, Miss Luchese. How have you been? They've been asking for you. Can you go see Mrs. Whoever? She had a fight with her daughter. That louse. I'm somebody. They say prayers for me. These people. My birthday. Some lady. Sure, she's a little screwy. She wants to make it a national holiday. I say that's a great idea. Me and George Washington. But I like that feeling. I need that feeling. That somebody. Often getting a few perks from our acts seem fine, but most of us can recognize moments when we get a little lost in such personal needs. In a relationship, marriage, friendship, work, there's a there's that place in us which enjoys being the wise and compassionate one. We understand someone a little too quickly or volunteer advice just too soon. Sometimes we have to be shown that all of us are better off when we're free of attachment to being helpers. I happened to have been on a mountaintop in a state of great bliss when a stranger suddenly appeared next to me, sat down, and immediately started to describe the problem he was going through. By the time I'd pulled myself out of the higher realms, he'd already detailed the whole drama, the cast of characters, and the decisions he was facing. I hadn't gotten a bit of it. Nothing, nobody. Moreover, it was much too late to him to ask him to run it all down once more. He would have felt very uncomfortable, justifiably. So there I was, intimate confidant to a deep problem, without the slightest idea of who was who and who had done what to whom. My first reaction was to laugh hysterically. I was it was one of those great human conditions moments. But this guy was obviously in distress and looking for a kindly pair of ears, so I picked up at least or as best as I could. To my continued amazement, none of the details became any clearer as we walked down the mountain. I kept hoping I'd find who she really was and what he had actually done. No such luck, and I wasn't about to ask a question that would reveal my total ignorance, making him feel terrible or lead me to hysterical laughter. So we just quietly walked down. From time to time, I would punctuate the conversation with what seemed like appropriate remarks. That must have been hard. What did you feel then? Oh, yes, I've been through that one before. Boy, things do get confused in life. Great insights like that. And he would nod appreciatively, continue, and I'd contain my sense of this wonderful human absurdity. Meanwhile, I was growing increasingly fond of this guy. The feelings and feeling great empathy for his problem, whichever that was. When we reached the bottom of the hill, he stopped for a moment and then suddenly embraced me. I just want you to know how incredibly helpful you've been, he said. You're one of the most understanding, compassionate people that I've ever met. Do you think we could have another conversation like this again? I was dumbfounded. It was one of the great moments in my life. Sure, I said. I'd love to. And he walked off to join some other people, a number of whom kept coming to me during the day saying, "What did you tell Eddie? He's just so grateful to you. He says you're wonderful." The attachment to the role of helper is frequently reinforced by training that often contributes to a confusion between role and skill. Medical students in grand rounds, for example, get not only a direct view of pathology and patients, but an equally intimate view of their teachers as role models. At a conclusion of a residency, a young doctor not only has mastered a complex body of knowledge, but has learned how to play doctor as well. The medicine man persona, while perhaps lending an aura that contributes to healing, also isolates the doctor from those around him. But there is another dilemma of the diploma. Help becomes how to, know how. Sorry. Obviously, training is valuable. We want our lawyers, counselors, and teachers to know what they're doing. Yet to identify them with their know-how is to shortchange all and turn our relationship into a transaction between one who knows and one who doesn't. Patterns of behaviors get frozen. The aura of know-how in the helper can undermine our confidence as the helped in defining issues for ourselves. We're a little unsure of the ground, don't know the technical language, generally uncomfortable. It must be our fault. Best we lie back and take what's given agreeably and end up feeling still more helpless. Identification of service with know-how has considerable occupational hazard for the helper as well. We begin to see people in categories. A psychiatrist treats paranoid schizophrenics. A lawyer meets with litigious parties. A politician woos constituents. A teacher worked with gifted or exceptional children. To apply such discriminative models to people can be functional. To limit people to these does violence to their beings. Indeed, to view the world only in terms of concept strips it of its mysterious beauty, its power to refresh. So we're called upon to take what is valuable from our training, but not let it constrict the helping relationship itself. We need to enlist the service of the intellect, but not let it block the intuitive compassion of the heart. Not easy, this task, for the temptation to identify ourselves as what we know is especially formidable when it comes to helping. We're moved by the desire to be service in our lives. When useful know-how comes along that can help us satisfy that desire, it's not surprising that we embrace it. Identify with it, feed it, go with conferences, read books about service, and write them. Once we have acquired all this knowledge, it's hard to keep it in perspective. It may dazzle us and make us forget the bedrock of wisdom to which all are privy. It gives us one kind of power but cuts us off from our birthright. The wisdom that comes directly from our common humanity and divinity. Finally, when we identify with our special knowledge, we may develop a vested interest in being right. In family life, we need to prove our theory of child rearing. In professions, we defend schools of thought. Helping often slips through the cracks. I believe the real estate industry in this town is unwilling to provide affordable, adequate housing, and I think there are reasons why. property, profit motive, how capitalism works, and so on. I don't push this analysis at folks, but working as a tenant organizer, I'm looking for ways to get these points across to a large audience. It can get complicated. I had been working with a building where conditions were terrible. People there were becoming active, word of mouth in the hallways, some informal meetings, a few natural leaders coming forward. All this even though folks were a little uncertain of themselves and looking to me and my knowledge and experience. Just about the time I was getting some interest from the press, one of the women who was showing some leadership, Carmen, a great lady, realized the time had come where we could push the landlord to get some repairs. He was sufficiently worried to make concessions. Problem was, some part of me wanted to hold off. I wanted to wait for a greater confrontation. There was a chance for some publicity, a chance to make a larger point about housing in the city. Carmen made her pitch at a meeting. Let's go down there with certain demands, deal with this man, see where we can get. We're strong, we're ready. She ran it down very well. People looked to me. What did I think? Now that's a key moment for an organizer. You're there to encourage people to move on their own, but you also have a commitment to a larger movement and a set of beliefs about how real change is going to come about. But when they were there, but when were they? But they were there looking at me. I wasn't looking at myself. I manipulated the meeting towards holding off confronting the landlord. I said we shouldn't sell out too early. I was going for my own agenda. I was persuasive, all the things you learn as an organizer, and I won them over. They'd hold off getting some immediate improvement in their lives. As the meeting was breaking up, Carmen came to me. She had this very won't leap to conclusions, but won't take any bullshit look on her face. She said to me very simply, "Are you being straight?" That's exactly how she put it. She was right on. She saw it. And she was giving me the chance to see it too. After a moment, I said, "No, I'm not." So I got people reassembled and told them I'd realized that I had been pushing my own interests and viewpoint rather than hearing theirs. I pointed to what it was like to be a tenant organizer with a theory of how to make change and build a larger movement. I said I thought they should talk it all over again and I should leave. I'd made it what in my work was a bad mistake. They understood. They said, "We still need you." And I said, "I'll still be around." But they started discussing it all again. As I left, Carmen gave me this great look. It was like a look of, curious, respectful, intrigued. It was as if she suddenly saw the whole issue of leadership right at the moment she was becoming a leader. It was a great moment between us, very encouraging. Many times we may be alert to the risk of the role. Out of the corner of our eye, we catch ourselves acting out our private agendas or see our attachment to certain self-images. But frequently, the situation in which we're working tends to set traps. The dynamics may be subtle. People may need us to play helper. The service organizations so many of us work for have an investment in a collective self-image. Reputations, budgets, relationships in the community need to be protected and promoted. By building and investing in formal helping institutions, we often end up creating distances between who we think we are and who we'd like to serve. There may be some vagueness, awareness of the problem, but in the end, we rarely find attachment to being a helper. On the agendas of most staff meetings, bring that issue up. The atmosphere in the room might turn a little cool. Can we get on with business? So little time, so much help needed. Our conditioning, our motives, our training, our attachments to our ideas, the vested interest in organizations, all these then can seduce us into believing we've all got we've got the help, we are the helpers. The self-image is very compelling. After all, we like to see ourselves as useful and compassionate. It feels good to be able to offer care to one another. We do have the talents and the training to offer, but other factors, other needs are at work as well. We have a personal history to make sense of, a storyline we're trying to write. This is your life. We need to present ourselves to others. What do you do? Well, I may. And we need to come up with that kind of answer, at least to ourselves. We've got to be somebody. After all, helper. Yes, I'm a helper. That's a worthy identity. Sad then that so often it imprisons us because of it, we find ourselves accomplice to the conditions of separateness and division. A world of nurses and patients, social workers and clients, spiritual teachers and seekers, people who know and people who don't. After all, if some of us are busy being helpers, there must be others under continuous pressure to be helped. The conditions of helplessness is one that we tend to push away, deny, or stigmatize as a society and as individuals. Our cultural myths neither encourage us to accept a common helplessness nor teach us how to act upon it. When it's suddenly thrust upon us, we're unprepared. For example, many of us feel resigned to helplessness as citizens. In a society that so inordinately emphasizes power, many of us feel we have a little influence over conditions beyond our most immediate circumstances. We may see injustice and neglect or sense the sterility of mass culture, the quality of education, the organization of work, the anonymity of community life. We all may distress us, but we frequently feel impotent or impotent. Impotent. I'm very impotent. We frequently feel impotent to change these conditions. The choices we're giving often seem empty and hollow. Half of us don't vote for president, even fewer elect local officials. We're offered 30 brands of blue jeans. Everyone knows they're really the same. The program on television is a bore. We switch channels, some choice. Frustrations accumulate, resignation reigns. What are we going to do? We sigh. What's the point of dwelling upon it? It only makes us feel worse. For those particularly weak and vulnerable, moreover, helplessness becomes a scarlet letter. The jobless steelworkers loses self-esteem as well as income. The welfare recipient is at the mercy of bureaucracy and the seeming whim of a worn-out clerk. The senior citizen is haunted as much by the possibility of general helplessness as any specific infirmity, to spend our last days in a nursing home, neglected and useless. In many societies, however, the state of helplessness is so common that the experience has to be shared. There is, after all, the poverty, the illness, the homelessness, the hunger, the death. It can't be denied or pushed to the back of the mind. because it's simply too prevalent. But as punishing as it can be, people have people also have a chance to see what strengths can emerge in its face. In the presence of helplessness, they can also witness courage, perseverance, patience, acceptance, dignity, and humor. Here, however, we shun helplessness, and when faced with it, bemoan our fate. We cling to the notions of independence. It's the name of our national holiday, as if it were an essential condition of all well-being. The last thing we want to do is to be robbed of power and placed at the mercy of others. Under any circumstances, that is a challenge, but in our society, the most helpless amongst us are often consigned to a separate class, ghettos, golden age, communities, hospitals, wards. They're put on, or they're put or kept somewhere. The rest of us are freer not to face what they represent. Then suddenly something happens. We're struck by adversity and a torrent of reactions. The shock at the loss of power, can't eat, can't wash, can't go to the bathroom alone. Just this bell, and how long it takes for them to come this time. The shame at having been raped of and the shame at having been raped and all these strangers know the guilt. It was just a pleasant drive in the country and suddenly a little boy is dead. The fear, my God, this is only the beginning. The first chemotherapy treatment, the first day of torture in prison, the first day of the bandages are cut off, and it's clear you're blind, and the helplessness falling, falling, falling. It happened in a stroke. It was a stroke. And here I am in a chair, half paralyzed. And nobody and nothing prepared me for it, for the mind part of it. Maybe there were chances and I missed them. Times I got sick, friends I might have visited in the hospital, but you do it for them. Then you can put it out. Then you put it all out of your mind. Now I have no choice. I can't put it out of my mind. I'd do anything to avoid facing it. Suddenly, the price of our conditioning becomes all too apparent. We've clung to models of ourselves as independent, defining ourselves largely in terms of our power to shape our own destiny. There's been a little encouragement to acknowledge and explore our vulnerability. The weak, the afflicted, the vulnerable, the helpless, it's always been them. Now suddenly we are them. Understandably, our tendency under such circumstances is to look for familiar ways to hold our ground. Behind false facades of courage or self-sufficiency, our ego might seek to deny our helplessness. Since others support us in the effort, for a while the strategy keeps us going. But deeper down, there may be something evasive about it. We're calling upon our old strengths, but are we facing the new situation? We're not quite sure who we are anymore. That's precisely what's so traumatic. Our ego is adrift. For fear of not recognizing ourselves, we refuse to look into the mirror of the present moment. Because our power is so threatened and our ability to control our environment is so curtailed, we may explore ways of using our helplessness to gain power. Perhaps we get others to focus on our predicament. Controlling attention is power. Or perhaps we play on people's pity, guilt, or sense of duty. Instinctively, We seem to know that we can pull those strings. We remember, after all, how we ourselves used to feel in the presence of someone else's helplessness. We become so busy trying to find old strengths or new devices to cope with our helplessness that we never really examine the condition itself. We may think we'll be giving up or giving in, and it's not surprising that we're not willing to let go altogether. The challenge is enormous. Not only must we deal with an affliction itself, we're being asked to confront our helplessness in the face of it. Can we imagine a more difficult task? At some level, we're being called upon to relinquish every model of ourselves, and that has kept us going until now. It's a leap into the void with no ground to push from. And to enter into and explore our helplessness goes against every learned instinct, like turning a car wheel in the direction of a sudden skid. Meanwhile, we're being helped, that is, by helpers. And so often, as we've seen, the character of their work, colored by their own needs for power and self-image, only makes us feel still more alien and diminished. What they seem to want most from us is our compliance. They want us to be helped. But that's not quite the same thing as inviting us supportively to explore our helplessness. This could be an obstacle to get things done quickly and efficiently. Don't dwell on such stuff. It threatens the ego. It's mysterious. It takes time. Perhaps, despite all this, we might have a halting, tentative willingness to examine our helplessness. We might recognize that in the very midst of this upheaval, there's a chance to confront our resistance and go beyond the perimeter of the familiar. With a little support, we'd be ready to peer over the edge and look at our worst fears. Still, conditions seem to conspire against it. The weight of circumstances and accumulation of habits, the entrapments of roles are just too great. Reaching out, trying the best we can, looking for someone who recognizes our little effort. We just don't get the steady encouragement we need. Maybe there's one nurse, one friend, one phone call that gives us the courage to pursue this exploration further. But eventually we resign ourselves to joining the ranks of the helped. As unhappy as we may be with this role, there seems to be no other option, no adequate support to find a new one. Thus, both helper and helped feel constrained. Both may experience the yearning to be free, may make attempts, may at times have small successes, but these often prove to be short. These often prove to be but short duration furloughs. We find we're still doing time. It feels, it still feels like helping prison. The philosopher Gurdjieff pointed out that if we wish to escape from prison, the first thing we must acknowledge is that we are in prison. Without that acknowledgement, no escape is possible. That is, as long as we feel that these roles are inevitable, functional, or the best we can do, it's unlikely that we'll be alert to alternatives. Fortunately, many of us do recognize the entrapment of these roles when we are able to step out of our situations for a moment and recognize these constrictions. We may even be prepared to acknowledge that somehow we ourselves are contributing to this sense of imprisonment. There's great potential in that recognition alone. It's the beginning of our escape. Just to be alert to the entrapment can prevent us from taking complete hold without our conscious awareness. We're more on the lookout for ways to penetrate the walls. A loose brick here, a vent duct there. We find an opportunity and grasp it and suddenly begin to come out from behind the rolls. With that alertness, we are ready to seize opportunities. A doctor comes in to ask how you're feeling, and you notice he's looking you in the eye. He's really asking. Now, can you tell him how you are feeling? Not just what your body's up to. An uncle who's been deeply depressed drops his guard and tells you just how much he misses his dead wife. The old family constraints fall away. He doesn't have to be strong. You don't have to be differential. You can meet as friends, both of whom have known pain. What's interesting when this happens is that we realize that the opportunity to meet behind the roles was present all along. It's a breakthrough to a state that there waiting. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief because we feel that we are home again. It's not so much that we've solved a problem through technique, experience, or know how. We've simply remembered who we all really are behind the roles. Of course, there's more going on than one-dimensional transaction. After all, we're human beings here. So we don't need devices or gimmicks to break through the walls of helping prison, nor do we have to deny that we can help or we need help. And there are appropriate forms to give and receive it. What we can do, however, is allow ourselves to open to a fullness of our humanity. We can make room for it all. As we do this, the richness and reciprocity of the helping act itself works to dissolve the barriers created by roles. It's clear, for example, that the helpers we as helpers, we don't simply go about dispensing services with nothing in return. We all know how much we get back from caring for others, nor is it simply material reward, praise, or the feeling of having been useful. Something far more essential can be tapped. You walk the halls of this place, and what do you see from room to room? Most people peer in and see this retarded child or that one. They focus on this particular mannerism or that deformity. I do it too. It's very compelling, that picture. But one kid flipped me around on that. We were doing language exercises, and for some God-forsaken reason, I'd chosen the exchange. How are you? I'm doing fine. We'd go back and forth. Well, he was having quite a hard time of it, slurring out. You, for some time. Let's try again really slowly. I said, how are you? And he slurred, I Bye. And he suddenly burst into this wonderful, crazy, slurry laugh. It was the nuttiest sound we'd ever heard, either of us. He wasn't doing fine at all. Neither was I. We were doing terribly. It was absurd. We just began to howl. In the midst of that, he suddenly gave me this very clear look. My eyes behind the expression, and I had a sudden thought. Thank God, he knows more than I'll ever know about this. He sees the whole situation. At which point he just scrunched up his face like a clown and gave me this wonderful wink. I was just stunned. All I could see was this incredible sense of all of the humor of things. It was so deep in him. He just had it all in perspective, and he gave that perspective to me. When I left him, my head was spinning. I walked down the hall and looked into the other rooms at kids I'd known or I'd thought for months. It was totally new. I don't quite know how to describe it. In this room, I saw courage. In that room, I saw joy. Across the hall, patience. In yet another room, such sweetness. A little boy who was continuously filled with love. People would just die. I was going to say live, really. I felt so humbled. I swear I had the impulse to go down on my knees. Here I was going around giving speech therapy, little lessons, little tips, and what I was receiving back in return, humanity, basic humanity, the deepest qualities of a person, deeper than you'd see most anywhere. What a gift. How much it helped me in my work. In fact, it really changed my life. How often can you say that? When we see that service is not a one-way street, we find that those we are helping give us a continuous stream of clues to help us escape the prison of our self-image. More than simply letting us know what might be working or not, they help us when they question our very models of ourself. They snap us too. They may even see right through us. And if we can't take it, it's a blessing. We may feel a little foolish, but ultimately we're grateful. The struggles of those we are helping confront us with life at its purest. Their suffering strips away guile and leaves what is real and essential. The deepest human qualities come forth: openness, yearning, patience, courage, forbearance, faith, humor, living truth, living spirit. Moved and touched by these qualities, we've no choice but to acknowledge and reaffirm our humanity. Others notice when this happens, we feel them feel it. It's at these moments that we remember what service is truly about. She thanked me for helping. I thanked her for letting me. She said, "You helped me see who I really was." I said, "You showed me to begin with." Our own experience with helplessness also points the way to escape from the prison of roles. When I lost my vision, I had been very self-sufficient and together. I was raising 5 children. I was working. I was volunteering in my community. I was an independent enough to be contemplating a divorce from a bad marriage. I had even given an attorney $500 just before I had to go into hospital. I had begun to find myself knocking things over and stumbling around. I went to an ophthalmologist, then a neurologist, then a radiologist, then a neurosurgeon. And finally, a doctor said, "You have a growth in your brain. If you don't have if you don't have surgery, it will continue to grow and it will continue to take your life." Just like that. The operation took 7.5 hours. The doctor said he'd almost lost me twice. He'd removed a tumor the size of a hen's egg. All I could see was the faintest bit of light. It didn't hit me until I got home. I didn't recognize myself. I went into the hospital with long hair. I came out with short. I went in at 145 pounds. I came out at 175 pounds, wearing my mother's dress. I went in and I could see. I left and couldn't. It wasn't me. And things were bad at home. I couldn't get a divorce now. I was too dependent. I tried to do things for myself, but it often just created more trouble. My youngest daughter didn't want to be seen on the street with me. She was ashamed. I felt so bitter, but I kept pushing my feelings away. What had happened? Why me? I just wanted out of there. All right. One nice fall day, I told my husband I was going out. I went down the elevator and got out of the house. I got to my corner and just stopped. I stood there expecting my minute. Any minute he'd come down and join me. He never came. I just stood there on the corner. A lot happened on that corner, and I saw my past life. I recalled just how lonely and helpless I'd felt as a little girl. And there I was now, just like a child again, only with five of my own. I stayed there a long time. Finally, I said to myself, well, here you are, and there's no place to go. It's time you brought a little help into your life. So I went into rehabilitation and I told them everything I felt. I gave them everything. I gave them my shame, my anger, and my fear. I felt it was my truth. And if it was my truth, then how could I be helpless? You don't offer or you don't suffer from the truth. The truth sets you free. Of course, it was hard work coming to terms with change, but after a while, you have nothing left to hide. You want to bring it all out. You want to make room to receive help. And when you're with a lot of people who are also trying to do that, you get a lot of support. Us blind folks working together, the more I felt that, the more I found myself beginning to offer such help as much as ask for it. I met a young man there who was blind from birth. He'd never had a birthday party, so I baked him a cake and organized a party. He blew out the candles. He couldn't see. He was delirious. It was grand. I felt so happy. I had some, I had come from that lost blind person on the corner to someone who had seen a need and done something about it. I've told people something that sounds a little cruel. Everyone should experience temporary blindness to see how our vision can give us such hangups, but how we judge, how we condemn, and what that does to us all. Like that boy with the birthday cake. There was a blind girl he had fallen for. Then someone said she was unattractive. He stopped seeing her. It brought tears to my eyes. He'd been seeing fine. But when you begin to see with that inner eye everyone has, it all changes. Everyone is human. Everyone is God's child. Everyone is helpless one way or another, and everyone is helpful too. We're all here for each other and how it is. And we all have something to give, no matter our condition. There are ups and downs, of course. You start blind and reach out. Sometimes there's nothing to hold on to, but you still reach. Then you learn to hold on to whatever you get. Then you find someone's hand and you take it. Then you see you can reach out and hold on to someone else. Once you start, it all follows. I've seen that. So now, when I work with handicapped people or anyone really, I find I have a special understanding to share. That's really all I have to offer. It's hard to put it into words. It's just, I understand. That's all. And yet, as sure or secure as that may sound, I don't think you're ever really secure. What is security? You can lose it in a flash. I know. And I still get shaky. So I have a little prayer that the Lord will send me someone to help me along the way on my subject journey every day. And that He'll send someone I can share my faith and strength with too. Both things. That's how I set it off to work. And it usually happens. How special that moment when we stop pushing it all away. Here is that moment of truth, the fear, the vulnerability, the doubt, the helplessness. And what's going on? That what we're feeling. That's what we're feeling. We're alone on a corner, but the moment we accept it, we're not running anymore. We've turned a corner and can finally say, now what? The minute we accept the place where we may seem helpless, it can cease to be the deepest truth about us. The part of us that is accepting it isn't the part of us that is lost in it. To regain that perspective is the beginning of freedom. Of course, there is no assurance that we won't go under again and again and again. but something has changed. There is now buoyancy, a new buoyancy. And the process is painstaking for it. And for it to proceed, we need great compassion for ourselves, exactly the way we are. And we must allow the universe to be exactly the way it is. Though through this process, we find that we are no longer pitting ourselves against things. We're opening to life, first by opening to ourselves, and then gradually expanding outwards. As we explore our resistances and fears, everything we've been so busy fighting for, now understanding, new understanding and resources are revealed. Our old models of ourselves start to dissolve, leaving us open and receptive to the new moment. Now we can begin to work creatively with the unknown. We're ready to listen and accept guidance and grace because we've made no room in ourselves. And we may be exhausted, yet the same moment we feel fresh. Having surrendered into helplessness, we can now get on to help. But as an active participant, before we had to be helped, now we are ready for its support, for a process that we have set in motion ourselves. So we reach out and receive it eagerly. It's become part of the dialogue with life, a dialogue in which we have things to say. We want to keep the conversation going. Help has become collaboration. In this collaboration, we see just how much we ourselves have to offer. Our own perseverance, honesty, openness, gratitude, humor, and we may be amazed to find out how hungry people are for these qualities. Sometimes after turning the corner of my conditions, I begin to notice how conscious and thoughtful I was being with everyone around me. I was even a little embarrassed at all this newfound selflessness. But it was so incredibly real and true and natural. One doctor caught it. I hear you've become the angel of mercy around here, he said. I said, it's true. He laughed. I understood. I said, you're familiar with the process, doctor. He laughed again, and I saw that he was. Does it last? I asked a little more seriously, and he laughed once more. No, but it comes back, and you don't forget, and you appreciate being reminded. And so at a certain point, helper and helped simply begin to dissolve. What's real is the helping, the process in which we're all blessed according to our needs and our place at the moment. How much we can get back in giving, how much we can offer in the way we receive. But even giving and receiving now seems artificial. So where does one begin? The other end? They seem to be immediately simultaneously. That's how it feels anyway. Isn't that why everyone's so pleased? Now at least we're ready to play the rules, the final twist, because at one level there is help to be offered and received. At one level there are forms. It's just that there are other levels as well. And as we embrace them all, our helpfulness and our helplessness alike, we find ourselves able to enter into the forms without being entrapped by them. We can accept and thrive in the inevitable ambiguities and paradoxes. The challenge is then, the opportunity really is to accept the rules in order to cut through them and cut through them in order to be able to participate in them without entrapment. Once we test and taste the excitement of this process, we begin to recognize its profound implications. It's a chance to take on form in order to liberate one another from it. This is the true work of a conscious human birth. This is what we're all here to do. So we enter into helping prison consciously. Here it is, after all. And it's fine. It's fascinating. In fact, helping prison is just where we might want to start out if liberation happens to be our goal. You have to go through 7 gates to get to where I work. Solitary, known here as in prison as special housing, aka the box. I run education projects and keep my eyes out for anything else. By the time I've passed through the gates, I've seen hundreds of people. ¿Cómo estás? Yo, sucker! Hey, what's happening? And there's an incredible gallery in here. That's what they call cell blocks, galleries, and a constant game of who's who. I see it at various levels. Inmates are here for starters because they're either committed or close to certain crimes. I also see that the system has produced conditions that make it pretty easy for that to happen, but they've made decisions too. So you've got the one of circumstance and choice weaving back and forth. And of course, everyone has their story, and all that's part of it too. It's just as complex as with the guards. They're jailers, but they're also fellow employees of mine. And they're stuck in regular routines, just like prisons, having to be the man. But they're choosing that too. And they're a little suspicious with me. Are prisoners are going to put one over on this guy? That's okay, but sometimes it's delicate. Recently, I had 2 guards around me coming on with, what are we gonna do with these commie teachers? I don't know. I'd like to find them buried under 10 feet of snow in the spring. You one of those commie teachers? No, man, I said, I'm an anarchist. I got nothing to do with the commies. It was a hard moment, actually. I saw a real deep hurting kind of suspicion about people like me brought in here to give inmates education. Wow, they can't afford to send their sons to college or get them a job in the area except for this lousy joint. So it's pretty complicated. The guards are watching out for anything that's going to make life difficult. The inmates are looking for whatever's going to make it easier. The guys are over here, those guys are over there, and I'm coming up the middle. So it's got to be something for everybody because you can't help somebody out if somebody else thinks they're losing because of it. So my approach is let's see if we can all uh, shake loose a little and not get too lost in it and see what we can do. And I'm constantly looking for clues to why we're all here, clues to what's possible. My bias generally is for a kind of harmonization, seeing it all like a chord that's trying to be resolved. I also have to do it because I can't afford to mess up. Very tense situation, the box. 32 very heavy people, contraband, drugs, violent acts, political prisoners, guys who get raped, guys who rape them, and very close, everybody on the edge, waiting, rapping, everything reverberates. Meanwhile, here I am rolling up and down the corridor in my box of the box with my little office chair from cell to cell with books and magazines. Quite a sight, I'm told. And I'll open up an inmate's food hatch, peer in, establish contact, and see what kind of program we can get going. I'm on a rolling chair. He's on his plastic pail, a little puzzled. The guards are glowering anywhere from suspicion to hostile. I have a good chair, but I'm afraid. But what I seem to be doing here seems to be needed. And what I seem to be doing here is also whatever I must. Have been curious about to get this job in the first place. It's it's a need, I think, simply to explore. What is all of this imprisonment and violence and separation all about anyway? I'm trying to explore that in myself, the everyday fear and anger in my own life. That's my education program in the box. Are there any answers to this incredible human dilemma? Can we get into some kind of larger, greater conversation where we're just telling each other, look, this is what it feels like to be me. I'm going through this. And you tell me what it feels like to be you. And we'll try to do that with certain kind of basic decency and sanity. That seems to me the beginning of freedom, something very much on people's minds here, everywhere, really. It happens. One day I'm squatting by one of the cells with a kid who's bending my ear off. Angel Cruz. Hey, mister, thanks for coming by. I got a list of books. I got me a plan I got to tell you about. Livewire. He's been looking at this issue of Solar Age magazine, and he's no hippie, whole earth dome head. He's just into solar cells, not prison cells. With one of these, I could move to Alaska, man, get away from all this shit, grow my own vegetables, cheap electricity, and setup. And I'm right there with him. The thought of moving to Alaska having occurred to me from time to time. Okay, Angel, where do you start? Well, finish up clean here, get me some plans from this other book, and do me some more research. And we're really into it, back and forth. And all of a sudden, down the hall, here comes mayhem, yelling, screaming, the goon squad coming in special uniforms. Possible riot, chance to spread. But Angel Cruz and I are dropping one stitch in our conversation. Angel Cruz and I are talking serious Alaska here in the midst of the storm. And there's some kind of sanctification in it. It's a place of consecration, which we are too which we too are keeping going together, both very aware that the stakes of the keeping in the conversation alive are somehow very high, and we're doing it. I can't tell you how much that conversation meant. It was so important. Everyone is flipping out, but I'm with Angel at the heart of his dreams, and Angel's with me at the center of my fear, and we're out of jail. We're building a solar hut in Alaska. So you might say, who's helping who? We're just two guys talking freedom. And yeah, we've got these different situations, but we don't have to get so locked in the box that we can't go to Alaska together. And that's what's helping relieve me of my biggest burden in life, the feelings that I'm responsible, that I got to do it, responsible for this place and my family and friends. That's probably what happened. That's probably what's brought me to the box in the first place. That's what I'm doing time for. 3 counts of taking things personally. Personal responsibility, heavy felony. So there's a great deal of to and fro in here. I'm telling guys about this and they're telling me about that. And they're giving me advice about my life and how it all is. Sometimes it's germane and sometimes it's not, but it's frequently very funny and I love it. I love moving in and out. I love the whole conversation. Rum, rum. All right. As we prepare to leave each digital sanctuary, we offer our deepest gratitude to the co-creators and pioneers who continue to sustain this space. Your service is a living prayer. We dedicate the merit of this gathering to the journey of every soul present. As you return to your individual paths, remember that your greatest act of seva is the kindness you show yourself. May you continue your self-seva with the same devotion you give to this group. We release the stories shared here into the vault of confidentiality. We leave the roles of helper and helped behind, returning to the simplicity of being. Go gently, knowing you are never truly walking alone. Namaste. And to our foundational co-creators, there's a specific kind of bravery required to build a bridge that has never existed before. By combining the teachings of loving awareness and the principles of intentional peer support, you didn't just start a group. You initiated a shift in how our two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, questioning, intersex, and asexual, plus everyone else community experiences spirituality. We thank you for your vision, seeing the intersection where our identities and our souls meet, your courage navigating the grist of organizational growth with a quiet mind, and your self-seva for every hour you spend in meditation, in therapy, or in nature, because that inner work is what makes the outer work possible. You have taught us to love, serve, and remember is not a burden, but a joy when shared in mutuality. And we honor your path. We celebrate your services, and we stand on the shoulders of your love. Ram Ram. I'm Angus Wright. I also go by Angus by design, and I am a fellow student. I'm also a practitioner of seva, which is the act of service, and I'm a moderator of the ramdas.org 2SLGBTQIA plus community satsang. So please reach out. Find anybody, visit ramdas.org. And if you know somebody that's interested in these things, maybe point them this way as well. Thank you, everyone.
What you and I are required to do is find the equanimity within ourself that is independent of the outcome of the game. As the Gita says, be not attached to the fruits of the actions. It gives two injunctions. It says, don't be identified with being the actor, and don't be attached to the fruits of the action. And you say, if I'm not identified with being the actor and I'm not attached to the fruits, why would I do it? So don't. Then what happens? Well, that person hurts and I really want to help them. Well, then go ahead. Oh. You and I mean, we're so afraid of our lack of compassion that we kind of feel we have to get behind ourselves and push to be good. We bought Freud's model of the id like it was tofu. But it's only talking about a relative reality. It's talking about one reality. Don't get sucked in by any definition, any paradigm, any model. It's much too constricting. So in the 60s, we got so into individualism and we pushed the edge, and the system started to fear chaos and anarchy, and there was a pushing back, and there was the fundamentalist movement and the conservative movement, and you saw that another revolutionary round was about to happen. And in the midst of it, you were listening to hear, is there an evolutionary process going on within a revolutionary process? As we were all going from the swing of the 60s and the possible to the cynicism of the post-Watergate, post-Vietnam period.